Emphasis and inflection. State Standards HS1.T.CR3.C. Explore and use physical, vocal, and/or psychological traits to develop a performance that is believable, authentic, and relevant to a theatrical work. To the uneducated observer, acting looks pretty easy. You're given a script, you memorize the lines, and then you just sort of say them while you move around. It seems like anybody could do it. So what makes the difference between an okay actor, a bad actor, and a really great actor? Let's go back to our definition from the beginning of the year. Acting is the exertion of control over the voice and the body in order to communicate character to an audience. Great actors make conscious choices about how to use their bodies in performance, but they also make conscious choices about how to use their voices in performance. Two of the tools that actors use to make those choices that change the meaning of the lines that they've been given to say are emphasis and inflection. When used properly, emphasis and inflection separate mediocre actors from the greats. Both of these terms are rooted in the ability to control one's pitch. So before we can learn about emphasis and inflection, we have to learn about how the human voice creates pitch. Pitch is defined as the highness or lowness of vocal tone. Your pitch changes according to how much tension is in your larynx. Your larynx is the official scientific word for your voice box. The higher your pitch is, the tighter your vocal cords stretch to decrease the amount of space that air has to pass out of your lungs and through your mouth. Creating a very deep pitch is controlled in exactly the opposite way. The larynx is stretched in the opposite direction in order to create a lot of space between the vocal cords, allowing for a deeper sound. You just completed an activity where you used your Minnie Mouse voice and your big deep bear voice. And what you were doing was practicing controlling your larynx to alter the pitch of your voice. Emphasis and inflection are both reliant on the ability to consciously control your pitch. As humans, we are constantly changing the pitch of our voices as we communicate. These pitch changes alter the meaning of what we're saying, and we don't have to think about it. We just instinctively understand that if we want our words to carry a certain meaning, then we have to deliver them a certain way. And when we hear words spoken with a certain pitch to them, that they mean a certain thing. This is something that we learn how to do through mimesis, through imitating the world around us. We do it because our parents do it, because our friends do it. Everyone changes their pitch as they speak. Everyone is able to control their pitch while speaking. If you have been trained as a singer, you're used to listening for changes in pitch and making conscious choices about when to raise your pitch and when to lower your pitch. If you're not a practiced singer, that's okay. You 100% have the ability to control your pitch. It's just going to take a little practice learning to listen for those pitch changes and being consciously aware of them as opposed to the passive awareness that most of us are used to using. One quick tip that I can offer you is to practice pitch changes in extremes. If I ask you to raise your pitch, don't just do it a little bit like I just did there. Do it an awful lot. Take your pitch to the extreme. If I ask you to lower your pitch, I just did it there at the end of that line, but it's awfully subtle. And if you're not used to listening for it, it's hard to hear. So when you're practicing, if I say lower your pitch, then take your voice all the way back down to the bottom of your register. And that will help you get used to controlling it while you speak and also getting used to listening for those subtle pitch changes that alter meaning. So we're going to look specifically at emphasis today. Emphasis is the choice to make one word in a phrase more important than the ones around it. And the placement of the emphasis is going to change the underlying meaning of the statement. Emphasis controls how your audience understands or interprets what you are saying. So, for example, if I have a sentence, I'm playing a teacher in a play, and my line is, "Your essay is due tomorrow." I want to make sure that my pretend students know that it is specifically their essay and not their poster project that is due tomorrow. So in order to make sure that that is the part that really gets picked up by their ears, I'm going to place emphasis on the word essay. And it sounds like this. Your essay is due tomorrow. But what if the essay is the only assignment they have coming up, and I really want to drive home the fact that the due date is tomorrow and not next week? Well, then I'm going to put emphasis on the word tomorrow. I'm going to make that one louder or stretch out the syllables like this. Your essay is due tomorrow. And I place vocal emphasis on that word. I haven't changed the actual words that I'm saying, but by shifting the emphasis, I'm in control of the part that you pay attention to. I can even alter it again and single out one specific student. Everybody else has extra time except for the one kid who's really gotten on my nerves. So to him, I would say, your essay is due tomorrow. There are 5 different ways to emphasize a specific word when speaking. The most common are first to raise the pitch and second to raise the volume. So by raising the pitch, I mean that I'm going to increase the amount of tension in my larynx, decreasing the amount of space that air has to travel through so that the sound of my voice is higher in pitch when I say the word I want to emphasize than when I say any of the rest of the words in that sentence. So for example, if I want to emphasize the word emphasize when I say how to emphasize when speaking, it would sound like this. How to emphasize when speaking. And all I did was just lift my pitch when I said the word emphasize. Increasing the volume works the same way. When I want to emphasize a specific word by increasing the volume, I simply make myself louder only when I say that word. So for example, how to emphasize when speaking. And all I did was make myself louder on the word emphasize. Another common way is to stretch out the vowel sounds in the word that I want to emphasize. So another way of saying this is that I'm really slowing down my pronunciation, but only on that specific word. It would sound like this. How to emphasize when speaking. And there again, the way I said the word emphasize was way slower, and I'd stretched those vowels way out compared to the way I said the words around it. I can also, when I have a multi-syllable word, I can deliver that word chopped up, one syllable at a time with little small pauses in between each one. And that's a way of emphasizing as well. It would sound like this. How to emphasize when speaking. And again, I chopped that word up into syllables and I put a little small pause to separate them. The difference in delivery there is what draws attention to that word. The last method is to use an emphatic gesture. An emphatic gesture is anything that I do with my body that draws attention to a given word or phrase as I speak it. So if you've ever been in trouble and your mama clapped her hands on each syllable as she said, "Listen to me," that's emphatic gesture. If I were to use it with our example sentence, it might sound like this. How to emphasize when speaking. So in short, the way you speak the word that you want to draw attention to has to be different from the other words around it because our ear is going to pick up on that difference. Practice it for yourself. Say the sentence, "Yes, I really can," and emphasize the word really. And every time you do it 5 times and use a different method. So, for example, you might raise the pitch. "Yes, I really can." You might make it louder. "Yes, I really can." You might stretch out the vowel sounds. "Yes, I really can." Try that sentence with all 5 different ways of emphasizing that word and see how it feels. The last thing I want to go over with you is that emphasis can change the meaning of a sentence. So I'm going to give you an example sentence. I'm going to emphasize a different word each time, and I want you to listen for the change in meaning. So my example sentence is, "She didn't take his money." If I emphasize the word she, the sentence sounds like this: "She didn't take his money." The meaning of that sentence is that there are more people involved in this particular transaction, and the individual that I'm speaking of is who I want to emphasize. That she is innocent of taking someone's money, whereas somebody else in the room might be guilty of doing it. But if I change the emphasis to the second word, "She didn't take his money." When I say the sentence that way, the implied meaning is that she, whoever this individual is the only person in this encounter, and what she is being accused of is something that she is innocent of doing. So I want to draw attention to her innocence there when I emphasize the word didn't. But what if I change again and emphasize the word take? And the sentence sounds like this: "She didn't take his money." When I say the sentence like this, the implication when I emphasize take is that is wrong. That what actually happened was he gave her the money. She didn't take it, he gave it to her. What if I emphasize the word his? The sentence sounds like this: "She didn't take his money." She might have taken somebody's money, but it wasn't his money. So that's what the meaning changes to when I change the emphasis to the word his. Finally, what happens if I put the emphasis on the word money? The sentence sounds like this: "She didn't take his money." The implication is that she might have taken something else from him, but it wasn't money. So the difference in delivery makes a huge impact on the meaning of the sentence and the way my audience understands what I'm saying. So not only do I need to be able to control my pitch, I also need to make decisions about what I want my audience to understand. It's always a good idea to practice what you're about to say and move the emphasis around, listening for the version that carries the meaning that you want your sentences, your lines to carry.